thank you for being here and to show some of the results of our institute. We are doing more stuff than this, but this is what we actually implemented into Ferrite.jl and Julia. And what I show you today is everything you can see here. So yeah, just let's hop into the introduction and what I'm showing you today. I have like two big topics. One is the topology optimization in general. That's weird. We have a special approach where we have this so-called labeled element method we developed by ourselves, which is a split of finite element and finite difference scheme to just speed things up. And I will show you some results, applications for porous media to optimize, some contact problem where you have basically large deformation topology optimization with potential self-contact, and also something different, not structural mechanics, but just photoelectronics. So basically optimizing lenses or optical devices. And the other big part is the stochastic mechanics, which has a special application to how solve the standard deviation and so on for the stresses, and also with this own numerical curves. So let me start with optimization. And in general, everything we are using at our institute is basically the Hamilton functional. So any variational principle, and our main topic is just to find the stationary condition for a given functional. And usually what you get is you have your displacement field U and you have your principle of virtual work. And this is quite basic. And this is what we mostly use Ferrite for. But what you also get is some partial differential equation. Usually this principle could be used to do viscoplasticity, and then you get the evolution equations for your plastic strains and viscous strains. But we can rewrite it and use it as an optimizer. So the usual internal variables are our design variables we want to find, or the values we want to find for to have an optimal design. So you can think of like, if you have an optimization problem, you don't have the microstructure here everywhere, but you want to find the internal variables or design variables at each point. So what we have is then, if we compute a stationary condition, we get some partial differential equations, and we solve them staggered. So in blue, this is the finite element. So everything, actually, the problem Kim showed you before, it's just like linear, solid mechanics, sometimes nonlinear. This is what we solve with Ferrite basically. And what we're doing is staggered, we mean that we keep the design variables constant while we're solving the FEM problem. Then we get some displacement field, and then we update our design or internal variables. And we use this because we get mostly this transient partial differential equation with a finite difference scheme, because this gradient part in there is very localized. So the finite difference scheme is actually much faster than just solving a finite element. We keep the displacement constant, we get a new or better design, plug it back into the FEM, and then we just do the whole thing until we hope we find some converged solution. For the finite difference scheme, I don't want to go into detail to this, because usually when I tell people, hey, we make finite difference, then the question is, okay, we just can do structured meshes. No, because we use the more general case where you basically have to derive the midpoint rule again. But what we're doing is we have a Taylor series, and we say if we want the derivatives at a given point, we just make a Taylor series to any number of neighbors. In this case, n. So you can take not only structured meshes, but complete the cloud of neighbored points. That's also the name where we call it neighbored point method or neighbored element. In the end, you get an overdetermined equation system. You can solve this with least square, and in the end, you just get an. If you invert this matrix A, you just get a rule for how to compute all the different derivatives, spatial derivatives in a given point, if you have the values in the neighboring points. And with this, you can just make a discrete operator for the Laplacian, if you just take the first two lines of the inverse, or you can compute a complete linear equation system like in finite differences, but just for any basically point cloud. And this is the reason we actually like Ferrite, because it's so open, you can do whatever you want, because we just solve any linear equation system, but then we have to compute basically our complete own system of equations just for this finite difference part. We actually also managed to compile this or build this into ANSYS and Abacus, but it's really cumbersome because you have like a side problem to solve in each step. Also, what's the point is that we need a lot of data requiring the mesh, because I said this finite difference scheme is generalized, but we actually use the quadrature points of the mesh. So why making a new mesh if we have already a FEM mesh? That's the reason we need some search algorithms for neighborings of the quadrature points. We also need, for example, the normal vectors on the surface. So we have to compute them by ourselves. I'm not sure if there's like a tool for it for the quadrature points on the surface or for the nodes, because we can use both, but we are at the moment at the quadrature point level. But anyways, we have to do a lot of stuff around the FEM actually. And just for some application, I guess this is the GIF animation from the topology optimization example from the Ferrite side. Maybe I just took it there. But anyways, it's using our method. But special application is now, this is like the topology optimization. We have like some support on the left side, maybe of course here. But if you go into the detail of the theory behind optimization, actually porous media at some point would be better. Usually you enforce this black and white solution, but this is like really a problem. So we came up with how to like optimize this porous structure. And this is actually in combination with the Transregio hypo, so hybrid porous media. And the point is now we are able, or like other project partners are able to like produce this foam method. The point now is, of course, have an additional design variable. This Chi is just telling you there's material or there's no material. But you need in each point additionally this phi, which tells you, okay, this is completely porous, some open foam, or it's closed. Of course, you cannot like go from 0 to 100% porosity. You have like a gap in there. So this phi basically tells you maximal porosity, so the lightest form you can produce, or full material. And of course, you need a mixture rule for your stiffness, where your chi tells you there's material or no material, and your phi how porous this one is. And you have a lot of like different other constraints. For example, you constrain the complete mass or the cost of the material, the problem. You need some regularization. That's the reason why we need this finite difference schemes anyways. And the dissipation basically tells you how your evolution equation in the end looks like. So you have your update scheme. Then you do the variational calculus, and you get this evolution equation to solve with the finite difference scheme. So this is basically this green area. And of course, okay, it's not written here, but this is wrong. Here should be upside. This driving forces or sensitivities, in some sense, they include the displacement field you have to solve with that. And now for some colorful pictures. But I first have to explain you the difference in optimization between single load cases and multi-load cases. But because we came up with, we have single load cases, we don't have so much porosity. So the difference is when I say single load case, every force here is acting at the same time. So you're loading like at 4 points. In multi-load case, is actually some compromise solution for the forces either going here, 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 or here, but not at the same time. The best example is if you have a clamped beam on one side and you have two forces equally, but just in the opposite direction at the point here. The optimal solution, if they work together, is just make a blob, because you just have some compressions you can hold. If they work like independently, you have the truss work, which is connected to the supports. Otherwise, it would just fall off. And those are the results. So what a single load case, as I told you, you have some porosity. Basically, at the support points, you have full material and less porosity in the interior. But if you have multi-load cases, you get this like foamy area, so to speak. So what's depicted here is the effective Young's modulus. So it's somewhat like the porosity of the material. And this is more likely, for example, if you think about bones, you have like outside is mostly like solid, but internally you have a lot of foam. And this gets more prominent the more load cases you have. So, I mean, you can think of like a bone where you're not just like having the whole time the same like force. You always have like variations. You slip or something, and then you have different load cases. And then this is why we have foams in our bones. Okay, so much for the porosity. Now for the third medium contact. We had the contact problem in before, but the big problem with optimization is we cannot define the contact zones because we don't know where they are. We have a design space. We don't know the truss work where maybe here's the contact zone or lower. It depends on the optimization problem. So we have to come up with a different idea. And the idea is now we introduce some kind of special void elements. So yeah, it's like the question how you do simulate nothing with FEM. Point is, of course, it should have like nearly no stiffness, but it should be incompressible, so you have like a contact zone. So you think about like you have void between two contact partners, and if you compress it completely, then it should be like infinitely stiff. This is the easy part. You just have a Jacobian material model if you have a neo-Hookean material. The problem is the mesh is getting distorted so much that you just, yeah, you cannot compute it because there's like self contractions and so on. So it just is not stable. So we have this kind of regularization. So we have basically this incompressible but very soft material, and we need two regularizations which just help to like, yeah, keep the void elements not too far from some big distortions. And what we're doing, we actually regularize the rotation of the material and the Jacobian. So what you actually have to do is you have the gradient of the Jacobian, which again is the gradient of the displacement fields. The rotation is also like depending on F, and you have the gradient of the rotation. So usually you would go higher order finite elements, but we don't like this. So we introduced this P and Q, and this is actually an approach which is also used in damage modeling. We just say, okay, I have this field, P and Q, which are regularized, so smooth to the gradient based, and you have a penalizing in an energetic term like here. So you say they have to be close to each other, but not equally. And so you skip the problem that you need some higher gradient of U. And of course, we have two additional unknowns. So you could use P and Q as nodal unknown additional ones, but then you have like a lot of computational time. So we also used here this NEM approach where we have like a staggered approach, and this P and Q is just solved with our like finite difference. And here you get like a unique like the equation system you just have to solve by yourself, and this doesn't have to do anything with FEM actually. And here for one example. So this case, we prescribed solid and void just for a test. And what you have is like 3 different bars, but actually the system doesn't account for if this is like a connected body or not. You could just connect them so you have self-contact. But in the end, it's just like one domain with 2 different indicators, like, for example, chi is 1, chi is 0. And of course, we expect now self-contact if you compress this. And you can see line to point contact, line to line contact. This doesn't matter. This void elements, which are quenched here completely, they just build this kind of contact zone. Then you can do some weird stuff like this. And without the regularization, all those elements would be so distorted that the solver just quits and tells you, yeah, there's no solution because the physical Jacobian is negative. Yeah. Problem is, the next point would be, just don't prescribe this, make this chi, do the optimization, do its stuff. But yeah, we're still looking. Actually, this problem is quite parameter dependent. So the regularization, we have to come up with some numbers. So I actually don't have any meaningful pictures for the optimization with self-contact, but we are quite convenient that this will work. Okay, another optimization. Don't know how good I'm in time, but I told you we want to also optimize some optomechanical devices. So this is the physics. We don't care about it. Keep only in mind we try to optimize lenses and fiber optics. So the point is you have a light source anywhere. You have a design space where you can put material or no material. And this should maximize the amplitude of the electric energy at some prescribed point. We can do this. So here is the boundary value problem, only one symmetry half. So here's the light source in blue. In red is whatever lens we want to put in there, or actually to optimize. And we want here to focus basically the light source. And depending on your parameters, you get this weird stuff of lenses, which doesn't really look like lenses. But the problem is, if you have such a small design space, there is not this usual double convex possibility to just do this. Don't know who's going to produce this stuff, but in theory it's working. Another interesting thing is you can do some kind of filtering or splitting, because the difference here is those are two different wavelengths of light, and you can prescribe different focal points to be optimized depending on your load case or wavelength. So previously was like I have different forces in load cases. Here means I have different wavelengths I could apply a different load case. So and the result is you have a light source, and maybe red light goes out here, green light goes out there, for example. What you also can do is combine this with mechanical, solid mechanics. And what this guy is doing, it's just one wavelength again. But the difference is we now try to, or we want to quench this body. And as a different optimization output is, if the body is like compressed, we want the light source to be focused on the bottom layer. So you basically can build some switches, mechanical switches for lights. And if you can produce this really small, it's quite convenient. Now for the second block, it's much shorter for the stochastic stuff. So usually you don't know your Young's modulus is not like just one value. It has like a range with the Gaussian distribution or whatever. And this is what we want to get out. So the expectation value and the standard deviation, but faster than Monte Carlo or anything else. For example, just normal thermomechanical coupling, also one directional. So we don't have like heat production due to elastic deformations. And what we want is that the norm of the elasticity tensor, the thermal conductivity, and the temperature is like a stochastic quantity. And yeah, this is the theory. Only thing you have to remember is we have some kind of Taylor series expansion. And to compute the expectation the deviation values, you need to find some coefficients in this Taylor series. And what you end up with is basically this for linear equation system. The first one is what you would do if you have a deterministic problem. So this u and theta 0 over there are the physical quantities you usually would solve, where we're doing with basically the Ferrite example. And what you do then, you have to compute afterwards this three equation systems, because you get this physical results, put them into this stiffness matrices, and then you get this stochastic quantity. So those are not physical problems, physical quantities. But in the end, so what's the problem? We are solving like with the same mesh one problem, and then three other ones with the same mesh, but we could in theory do this in parallel because they're independent of each other. In the end, therefore, this is worth it because we are having the, we have to solve like 4 finite element problems. And if you do it with Monte Carlo, you just have to do it 500 times. So we're factor 4 or 500 faster. So, because I'm running out of time, just a short conclusion. What we're doing is we have staggered approaches. So we use the basic Ferrite stuff, but have a lot of other things around it. So we try to use as most possible from the Ferrite.jl stuff, but we have to do a lot of own things. But in the end, it's worth it because we're just doing it weirdly, but faster. Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, thank you very much. There was a lot of interesting applications. We have time for one short question if somebody wants. Christopher?
Are you using official Ferrite release, or do you have your own fork with your own work? Does the official Ferrite release work?
Not sure. We're working on different versions, but we use the official Ferrite stuff and then have this, like when we start with this basic like example clip showed, and then we plug everything else with Julia just back on it.
You don't need like your own Ferrite version with your own.
No, we just need a lot of toolboxes and mesh manipulation, whatever. This is like we use the Ferrite basic, and we don't make an own like build, but we use everything we have.